So about a month ago, I made a video where I spoke about how to save your first $10,000, and that video got over 200,000 views. And I decided, why don't I make another video talking about basically how to invest your first $10,000 overall. And you might think, Tommy, well, isn't that the same exact thing, saving and investing? The answer is no. When you save money, you have that money set aside. When you grab that money and you put it to work, well, you got to know exactly where you're going to put that money, how much money that money is going to make you, what the risks actually are, what account to actually use, what app to use. And in this video, I'm going to basically answer all these questions. And no, investing isn't just about the stock market or retirement account. It can also be real estate. It can also be a business. But overall, I'm going to tell it to you the best way I know, which is basically with the stock market, because I grew an account back in 2019 from around $7 to now around almost $300,000 overall. Now, the good news is that the same thing I did to get to my first $100, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, $200,000 was basically virtually the same exact thing. So that's why this video is so good, because you don't have to be a professional, you don't have to be going crazy. The answer is no, it's pretty simple. And by the way, just so everyone watching this video is on the same page, my investments, they're not exciting, they're not fancy, they're not sexy, they're very boring. I invest into one thing, which you'll know by the end of this video, and it's basically keep investing money into it for the long term, and my goal is to get passive income from it, which I do get, and that passive income to replace all my income, so that way I can basically just live without having to work if I don't want to. So if that sounds good to you, you're in the right place. But if you want excitement of you almost losing all your money overnight, or you trying to invest into Bitcoin, this is not the video for you whatsoever. I just gotta be honest, that way you know that you're in the right spot or you're not in the right spot, okay? Now, as always, guys, like this video on top of that. Also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified. Now, the first challenge to this 10K challenge is going to be a simple one. A lot of people try to focus on, Tommy, I want to invest more money, I want to be able to make more profit, I want to do this, I want to do that. But one of the simplest ways to have extra money, to then invest extra money, is going to be able to take a look at your lifestyle and what you actually spend money on. Now, I realized very early on, guys, because I kind of still am, you can't get rid of it, but I fight it and I create systems around it. My natural nature is to be a spender. I like spending money. But what I've learned to do is to be a saver and investor. I built up that skill over time, but my nature is in spending. But overall, I realized that early on when I wanted to get into investing and saving, I had a problem. It was basically with my lifestyle. I like to spend money. So the whole idea is this. If you want to take a look at your lifestyle and where you can cut certain bills out to basically invest that, the answer is this challenge is going to make a big difference in your lifestyle. So what I did was I grabbed a piece of paper. If you want to be all virtual, you can use your notes. It doesn't matter, honestly. And just basically write down all of your bills. If you don't know all your bills, go to your credit card statement, go to your debit card statement, go to your bank statement, whatever you're using, your receipts, and you look at, for example, every single bill you have every single day, every single month, every single week. Look at your bills, okay? The ones that keep happening over and over again. And what you want to do with that information is you want to look at the ones that you don't need, and you want to circle them, okay? Circle them, circle them, circle them, circle them. The ones you don't need. And I realized that one big bill that I had at the time was basically my phone bill and also haircuts. And you might say, Tommy, you need a haircut, obviously. Yeah, but I don't need a haircut every single week. And you might say, Tommy, you need a phone bill. Yeah, but I don't need to have all of this unlimited data stuff, so it doesn't make any sense. So in reality, I realized that just on those two bills, for example, I had a $80 a month, I think it was, on my phone bill. No, it was actually $70 a month on my phone bill. And I paid $20 per week, 4 weeks in a month. That's around $80 a month for my haircuts, so plus 80. And that was around $150 a month I was spending on just these two bills. Not counting everything else, because I had other things I won't mention in this video, like eating out like crazy or buying clothes like crazy and shopping and all this dumb stuff. The answer is, what you want to do is you want to grab these bills monthly and you want to multiply them by 12. This gives you the annual cost. Wow, $1,800. So if you basically save this much money in about 5 years, you'll have $10,000. The answer is no, that's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is this. There's this very simple equation when it comes to understanding the value of your investments, okay? And it's called the 4% rule. And the 4% rule basically says this, guys, okay? In this video, I'm gonna give you an investment that can make you around 10 to 12% every single year. That's the idea. So when this money keeps making you money at this rate, the goal would be that you take, for example, just 4% of your profit. So that way you leave more money in there to be able to make more and more money. So this way you don't run out of money. It's very simple to understand, right? So if you have a basket full of eggs and every day you add 10 eggs and you take out 4 eggs, well, over time, you're still gonna have more eggs and more eggs. But if you get 10 eggs a day and you take out, for example, 10 eggs every day, you're always gonna go back to 0 and 0. And if the eggs go down, you're gonna have a problem because you won't have enough eggs to eat that day. It's that simple. So what this says is this, guys. If you grab this number, which is the annual cost, and you multiply it by 25, it tells you exactly how much money you need to have invested to support those bills. So in this case, support my phone bill and my haircuts, I needed an investment account with around $45,000. If my investment account has $45,000 and I earn 10% on it, obviously that's going to be around $4,500 every single year. But again, I'm only going to take out 4% profit. So if I multiply this number by 4%, I will get exactly the number I had before, which is basically $1,800. That's how crazy this is. So once I realized that, hey, Tommy, you're spending $5,000 a year on trash, and that $5,000 is going to cost you, again, just multiply by 25, is going to cost you, for example, $125,000 extra of investing, I started to cut things out left and right. And I basically said, I'm just going to keep my necessities, work on that first, and do that first, which is basically shelter, utilities, groceries, and transportation. Everything else gets cut. And once I'm done with those, and I can focus on maybe living an extra nice lifestyle, but in the meantime, I'm gonna do what comes first. So I did that. I cut all those bills. So one thing you can do is basically try to pay off your debt as fast as possible. Try to basically cut all the bills you basically don't need. Try to keep things simple. What's a need and what's a want? And yes, it's okay to have a few of them, but understand how much is actually going to cost you. That's super important. So although people try to focus on making more money and more of this, sometimes the best thing you can do instead of sacrificing your time is just sacrifice a bill. And that way you can basically get to your goal a lot faster. Now, number 2, guys, is I started to make a lot more money when I realized, and to also save more money and to invest more money, very strangely, when I realized that 10% of all the money I make is mine to keep. And you might say, Tommy, that makes no sense. But if you read a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, it talks about this. And it says, for example, Tommy, well, 100% of all the money I make is mine. The answer is not really, right? Because you have to pay taxes, you have to pay for your bills, and then usually you have some money left over, and then usually, let's be honest, most people are living paycheck to paycheck. So in reality, your check is more like to pay other people, not really to pay yourself. So I started to tax myself every time I got paid. And at the time, that was around 10%, okay? Then it became 20%, then it became even more. But then I put it back down to 20% because that makes the most sense for me and where I currently am in my life. So that basically means a very simple idea. If you make $4,000 a month or whatever you make, just make it a rule to take 10% of the money you basically get paid and always grab that money and you invest it. Now the question is, Tommy, we're talking about investments here, but are you telling me to invest my money, for example, into a business, into real estate, into the stock market, into a retirement account? What exactly are you telling me to invest my money into? Well, I can only tell you what I personally invest my money into, and that's going to be, I invest my money in the stock market and into a ETF, exchange traded fund, and also index fund called the S&P 500. This investment contains the 500 largest companies in America, which basically means that if I were to lose all my money, it basically means that America is lost altogether because all those 500 companies would be lost, like the Apples, the Facebooks, the Teslas, all those companies, they're gone. They don't exist anymore. America's dead. And at that point, money doesn't even matter anyway. So it doesn't make sense. And that investment earns me about 11%. Okay. Well, 11.88%. And that's why I say you'll make between 10 to 12%. But I want to be conservative and use the number 10%. Now, also, would I put this money, for example, in normal account? The answer is no. If you can qualify to get a Roth IRA, which is basically an individual retirement account, which basically means you can actually invest your post-tax money. Basically, you pay taxes already on the money. You grab that 10%, you invest it in there. The money grows tax-free. And when you want to take it out, you can also take it out without paying any taxes. That's pretty cool. So let's say again, you're going to be making, for example, $4,000 a month. If you grab, for example, 10% of that, that's $400 a month you're going to invest. So when you times it by 12, that's going to be around $4,800. And you might say, Tommy, well, in a little bit over 2 years and 1 month or so, I'm going to have my $10,000 investment goal. The answer is yes, it sounds like that. But in reality, no, because you're also making 10 to 12% on your money, which also makes a difference. But the whole goal is when you're thinking about this $10,000 figure, remember, you're gonna make it a lifestyle to invest 10% of the money you make, 10 to 20%, okay? That's the goal. And if you make that a lifestyle, if you were to invest $400 for the next 30 years, okay? In those 30 years at 10%, you would have around $875,000 if I'm not mistaken. Although I have the numbers back here, and that's why I'm telling you this, okay guys? Because I did the math beforehand. But that's a lot of money. And that's just by you doing 10%. Now you might say, Tommy, what if I have extra money left over? And by the way, what app should I use? The app I would use is probably Vanguard. It's very simple to use, or Fidelity or Schwab's. They're very good brokerages. They're large, they're massive, and they keep things simple and they have very low fees. But overall, if you're wondering, Tommy, what if I have more money and I can do more than 10% or more than 20%? The answer is, remember, the only investment you make is not just going to be into the stock market. You know, me personally, what I did is I was putting aside that 10-20% for the stock market, but I was also putting money aside to buy my first property. And I bought my first property. So that's real estate. So the money I have in real estate now, that money also goes up in time. Now, when I say real estate, I mean my personal property, my personal home. And guess what that means, okay, guys? Because I no longer have to worry about, like a house like the one I bought in Puerto Rico would cost me, let's say in rental income, let's say around $1,200 a month, right? So if I'm paying $1,200 a month in rental income multiplied by 12, that would cost around $14,400, right? A year. Now you know where I'm going with this, right? So if I multiply this by 25, that would mean I would have to have invested around $360,000. But because that house is now paid off, because the goal is you buy a home, you put it on a 15-year mortgage, it's no more than a third of your monthly income, this way you can pay it off even faster. If you do that correctly, you can finish paying that home off in less than 10 years, and then boom, that saves you an extra $300,000, at least in my case, because I don't have to pay for rental income. And to me, this right here is a massive deal, because this money, I don't have to have it for that, meaning my cost of living is a lot lower. And the goal with investing is not to have a bunch of money. My grandma always says this, it's not about the person that makes the most money, it's about the person that does the most with the money they have. And I realized that when people that made double my money, triple my money, didn't have as much money as I did invested, okay? Now, the third challenge I'm gonna challenge you on, again, so far, I'm challenging you to basically cut some bills out that you don't need. I'm challenging you to take a part of all you make and invest that money. Now, the third part is I'm challenging you to go out there and make a separate check just for investing. Tommy, what do you mean make a separate check for just for investing? Okay, the answer is simple. When I first started getting into investing, I remember I had one job and two businesses. That job sustained my lifestyle, but it also gave me extra capital to put into my two growing businesses. Now, eventually, by me feeding those businesses, I would basically grab that money, reinvest, and that money would make me more money, but eventually, those businesses basically sustained me, and I no longer needed to work and exchange so much of my time for money. It was actually pretty cool, right? But overall, I'm doing that right now because this is my time and money, but I love doing what I do here. But overall, The idea is very simple. Let's say you're working a normal job. You're doing like full-time or part-time. And when you have extra time, which we all do, like an extra 2-4 hours a day, you can just grab that time and do like another side hustle or something you actually are interested in, and then basically invest that time to make you even more money. Now, when I say invest, be very careful with these words. I don't just mean, hey, I'm gonna do some Uber Eats, I'm gonna go work another job. That's all time for money, which is fine. But I also mean you can use that time to study, get a new license, get a new degree, or whatever it is. And then you can turn that investment into a bunch of extra money too, right? Because if you get a new degree and that makes you another $20,000 a year, I mean, that's massive. That's money you could just use just for investing, and that could get you to your goal a lot faster. I mean, that's pretty cool. So overall, that's the challenge. Try to make a separate check just for investing, and that's gonna make a big difference in your life. Now, the last question I wanna answer is this. If you made it all the way to this part of the video, comment down below 10K so I know you made it all the way to the end. But overall, here's the thing. You wanna figure out exactly how much money you're going to need for retirement or in passive income so you don't worry. Now, I want you for a second to just forget about everything you think you know, okay? And here's what I mean. Everyone has this fallacy or this idea that they need to have so much money monthly based to basically have this nice lifestyle. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your necessities. Necessities are the core. It's what we need. So what exactly do you need? Overall, shelter, utilities, groceries, and transportation. And I want you to think about what you actually need, not what you want. You know, for me, for example, a good home, which is like something I can afford within my budget using the rule of, hey, 15-year mortgage, no more than a third of my monthly income. Simple, okay? Utilities, the things I actually need, like gas, water, electricity, a phone bill, and internet, okay? Those are the needs. Not the iPhone 14 Pro, whatever it is, or 15 Pro, whenever you watch this video. And as far as, for example, groceries, not the I'm shopping over at Whole Foods stuff. No, the core stuff, the rice and beans, the things that are gonna keep you alive. And then number 4, transportation, the car you get to drive, okay? It's paid off, but you have, for example, the maintenance costs, the insurance costs, the gas costs, and also, for example, car washes or whatever else is involved. So you grab all these bills together. You sum them up. Again, it's the necessities, all right? So if that number gives you, for example, let's say, hey, Tommy, I did the math. It gave me let's say $3,000 a month, okay? Well, multiply that by 12. That's around $36,000 a year. And multiply that by 25. That says, hey, you need to make or have an investment account with $900,000, okay? That's how crazy this is. Now, this can take an average person a very long time to actually get to. And that's why I say it's so important you figure out a way to cut out a lot of these things. Because, for example, if $3,000 is your cost, but let's say out of that $3,000, $1,000 is for, or let's say $1,200 is basically for your shelter costs. Well, if you pay off that home, well, that is gone. And let's say, for example, utilities just stay the same, groceries stay the same, your car stays the same. Well, now it's only $1,800 a year, right? So if you per month, multiply that by 12, well, that's $21,000. Multiply by 25, that says, hey, you only need $540K. So that saves you an extra, what is it, 60 plus 200, an extra $260,000 in savings. And that's basically time you don't have to work, money you don't have to invest like crazy, and you don't have to wait that long. So that's why it's so important. While you're going along this journey, realize that you want to cover your necessities. Now, once you have, for example, this money in there, and by the way, I recommend you always grab this amount and add an extra, for example, 20% to it. So just multiply it by 1.2, an extra 20%, just in case like the market goes down or something goes down, that way you're covered. But overall, like once you have that money and you say, well, Tommy, I want to have something nicer now, that's fine. You can do that, okay? But the core idea is first, cover your bases. cover your necessities, cover the needs, and then you worry about, well, I want to buy a nicer car. Then you can afford one now, right? I want to buy a nice home. You can afford it now. That's the idea. But the idea to say, hey, Tommy, what I really want, and I see these comments all the time, is I want to have $10,000 in passive income every single month. And I always do the math. I'm always, okay, so $10,000 times 12, that's around $120,000 a year. Multiply that by 25, you need to have around $3 million in there. That's a lot of money, right? So I'm talking about like, that's like decades of investing, decades of work. And then you finally get there in like 30 years and like, what's the point? You know what I mean? So you got to figure out a way to cover your necessities first. And then you go from basic necessities to nice necessities to better necessities to nice lifestyle. You know what I mean? But cover the basics first. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this challenge. I hope you basically get to your 10K goal as fast as possible. But remember, the goal is not 10K. The goal is freedom. And 10K is just a starting point. And the whole thing is enjoy the journey, because the person you become to get to that goal is the most important part. All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified, and don't forget to comment down below 10K so I know you made it all the way to the end. Up here is the 10K savings goals challenge, and over here is my face. Click and subscribe, and as always, long-term team officially out.